Are you someone who has recently been diagnosed with Parkinson's, or are you someone who knows someone who's been recently diagnosed with Parkinson's disease? Are you wondering how you, as a spouse or a partner or a family member, can step into the caregiving role and what you should expect in the days, months, or years ahead? Are you wondering what kinds of things you should consider as a caregiver to make sure that you and the person that you love that's been diagnosed with Parkinson's avoid any unnecessary challenges or setbacks in the future? Or finally, are you curious how this new dynamic as a caregiver and as a person diagnosed with Parkinson's, how that relationship will change over time? Well, if you answered yes to any of those questions, I want you to stay put, because today we're talking about how to lay the groundwork early after a Parkinson's diagnosis to ensure that you as a caregiver can move forward together with your loved one in a really effective and powerful way. So if you haven't joined us for a live broadcast before, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Sarah King. I'm a Parkinson's physical therapist and a really passionate Parkinson's advocate. And I founded Invigorate Physical Therapy in order to help people who have been affected by a Parkinson's diagnosis find some solid ground by giving you guys the tools and the framework to use to eliminate worry and anxiety and be able to live your most powerful and vibrant life. And today we're focused on the second half of the Parkinson's equation, which is the caregiver. So if you are a caregiver and you're caring for someone, or you have a loved one with a diagnosis of Parkinson's, give me a thumbs up, because I'd love to know who's in here and how we can support you. Introduce yourself in the comments. Let us know why you're tuning in, what questions you have, because we have a really, really special guest that I'm going to bring on here in a moment. And I already see people saying hi in the comments. Sarah's here from North Point, New York. Cheryl from Michigan. Susan here. Good morning, guys. So before we start, I really want to remind you that no two Parkinson's journeys are the same, and no one has a crystal ball, and no one will be able to predict your future or the future of your loved one if they have a Parkinson's diagnosis. So something that happens quite often is after a Parkinson's diagnosis, you as a caregiver or your loved one, if you're someone with a Parkinson's diagnosis, goes online and starts looking at what to expect in the future. And that can be a really, really scary place to start. So I want to just encourage you to tune in today, because we are going to really empower you with tools and resources and strategies that you can implement in order to reduce the worry that you're having, reduce the anxiety that you have, and the stress that can come with a new Parkinson's diagnosis, because we promise that there is hope and there is plenty and plenty of things that you can do to ensure that your future is bright and vibrant, and you work together as a caregiver and a person who's been diagnosed with Parkinson's in a relationship that really helps you thrive. So thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know if you can hear me by giving me a big thumbs up, because I'm going to bring on our guest today. So her name is Annie Wallis. She goes by Ann or Annie. I had to ask. And she's the Associate Director of Education at the Parkinson's Foundation. And as part of Annie's role in the education department, her focus is providing high quality information and programs to not just people diagnosed with Parkinson's, but their caregivers and even healthcare practitioners like myself as a physical therapist, and all across the nation, to help ensure that people diagnosed with Parkinson's get high quality care. I love the Parkinson's Foundation. I think they're doing amazing things. And Annie specifically she got her master's in social work. So she's a social worker. She focused in community and social justice from Ohio State University, and then went on and had her bachelor's in social work from Florida State University. So she has a robust background and a lot of experience. And as soon as I reached out to the Parkinson's Foundation, Annie jumped right in and said that she was so excited to do this interview. And she's going to come on next week as well for a follow-up interview talking about how to be your best caregiver for people with advanced Parkinson's disease. So she's going to run the gamut. Today, we're focusing on early after a Parkinson's diagnosis. So whether you're just diagnosed or maybe in the couple years after diagnosis, this is where you want to be for the next 30 minutes or so. So let's go ahead and bring Annie on. Let me pull her up here. Hello, Annie. Welcome to our interview. I'm so excited you're here. Thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me. And hello to everyone who's watching.
Hello. Everyone give her a big hello in the comment section below. Annie is also going to share at the end of our broadcast a really valuable event that she helps coordinate for the Parkinson's Foundation. So I want you guys to stay tuned if you want to hear more about that. So Annie, let's go ahead and jump in with our first question. So what does it mean to be a Parkinson's caregiver?
You know, I think it's a really important question. There's obviously a huge difference between the caregiver who has a person with Parkinson's who was diagnosed yesterday and the person with Parkinson's who was diagnosed 30 or 40 years ago. Parkinson's looks so different from person to person, but especially from the beginning to later on in the disease. And so a caregiver of a person with Parkinson's really doesn't look like one thing. In a perfect world, the person who's giving care to their loved one with Parkinson's is ready to challenge or to take on whatever challenge arises with the Parkinson's diagnosis, ready to handle the disease as it comes, because it's not going to come the same way that you've seen it with other people with Parkinson's. So ready to adjust as things change. And really, we need someone, we need to see people who are ready to be the support that the person needs, and also will, make sure they're taking care of themselves as the disease progresses.
Right. Caregiving isn't just about giving everything all your care to the other person. It's about balancing it between yourself and that person that you really care about.
Yeah, I always remind people that you cannot pour from an empty cup. You need to make sure that you are refilling yourself even from the beginning, making sure that you are at your best so that you can give your best.
And it's easier said than done, most definitely. But we're going to talk about it here today. So can you talk about the 7 things? You and I had talked before, and you said that there are 7 things that you need as a Parkinson's caregiver. So can you outline for the people watching what those things are?
Yes. And so everyone. This is pulled directly from our caregiver workbook, which is a free resource available on our website, parkinson.org. If you go to parkinson.org/books, you can see all of those free resources. But the 7 needs of caregivers starts with education about Parkinson's disease. It's so important to have a sense of what could come without getting hung up on what will come, and without losing sight of what is. I think it's really easy for people to get that education and to freak out because they think they know what's going to happen. And that's just not the reality with this type of disease. So you have to balance that need to learn and know what may be coming with recognizing human instinct to expect the worst. So keep that in mind as you work on educating yourselves. Number 2 is time management. This becomes especially important as the disease progresses, but you've got to lay the groundwork early. So really practice delegating to your loved ones with tasks that come up around care. Make sure that you're establishing routines that work for your family. Obviously, still make sure that you're flexible and that you're living your life, that Parkinson's doesn't become who you are. But really be intentional about creating, that system of your day and your week and your month that works with how your loved one's Parkinson's is progressing. And this is my favorite as a social worker to talk about, but self-care is so important with caregiving. And we talk about health and respite primarily when we think about self-care. So make sure that you're not putting your own health aside. Make sure that you're getting to those annual checkups. Make sure you're getting your mammogram every year. Make sure that you're getting all those things that you need, all the preventative health care, because if you get sick, you can't care for your loved one as well. And it happens all the time. you're aging right there along with your loved one. So keep that in mind. And when you need a break, take it. In fact, don't wait until you need it. Practice taking breaks before you need them. Plan a trip with your friends every year and protect it. Establish those things and look for your signs of stress. Know what to look for and know what works to beat that stress. Whether it's something simple like going and taking a walk around the block when your head is ready to explode, or if it's something more significant like, planning for yourself a monthly massage. But find what works for you. The fourth point is building a support team. So this is something that I will be talking about at that wonderful event that we'll cover a little later, the Caregiver Summit, which is happening in Phoenix, but it is going to be streamed online in English and Spanish. So I'll really dive deep into how to figure out who in your life can play what role on the caregiving team from early on in the disease all the way until advanced Parkinson's, because there is always someone who can help. Looking beyond that, number 5, think about your relationship with the person with Parkinson's. And obviously, no relationship is perfect. None of you are going into this new terrifying thing of managing Parkinson's with the perfect relationship where communication is perfectly easy and you're always on the same page. You have to remember that doesn't go away just because you're now a united front fighting Parkinson's. You still have to deal with all those little things. So really think about being intentional about establishing positive relationship or communication patterns before the symptoms have progressed. And that's another thing that we'll be talking about at the Caregiver Summit.
Can I pause you? I know you're in the middle of your 7. There were a few things I wanted to follow up on before we get too far away from them. So time management, I could not agree with you more about, even if it's scheduling to reduce how many decisions you have to make in a day. You already have enough to try and figure out. And so when you schedule things, then you don't have to worry so much about what you should be doing. It kind of flows naturally and it gives you a little energy back. But I was wondering if you have found it's more helpful for people to do that time management on like a paper calendar or an app, or if you have any tools. It's okay if you don't, but do you have any tools that you like to recommend to people to make that easier, that time management piece easier?
That's a really good question. And my guess is that most of the people watching this are the type of people who would benefit from using something on their smartphone, since you are on a Facebook Live video. Typically, when I'm out in the community talking to people, I always assume that it's 50-50 people who are excited about using technology and people who want nothing to do with it. Nothing specific comes to mind, but there are so many tools for scheduling. I definitely recommend looking at different apps and finding one that is free, but that works for your situation. And if you've got, children that you're dealing with in the family as well, that works for them, that they can be looped in on.
Okay. Maybe we'll do some research. We're also, as part of our caregiving series, this video is part of our caregiving series. We are also doing a caregiving kit, a downloadable PDF. So I'm going to make a mental note to do a little research, maybe on some apps and some technology that can help keep track of that. There's also, I had seen a PDF that we'll share in our caregiving kit. You can go to invigoratept.com/caregivers to download that PDF. But there's also a PDF downloadable. I think that's all paper that we can share that I'm blanking on right now. But if you don't do anything else, figure out a way to schedule your time that makes sense for you guys. And then I had a question about communication. Like you said, relationships are challenging sometimes as it is. Just being able to communicate with another human being is really challenging at times. So is there anything that you could dive deeper into as far as how to facilitate that communication, aside from trying to focus on it? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm a big proponent of is counseling. I'm obviously a social worker. And I think that as a society, we really undervalue counseling when things aren't at the very end of their rope. If you have just been diagnosed with Parkinson's, or your loved one has, now is a great time to sit down with a professional and talk through all of those fears, all the things that haven't changed with the diagnosis, the good, the bad, the ugly, and help set yourself up a really good new foundation on the relationship that already exists. And a big part of good counseling is learning tools that work for you, that make sense in your everyday routine, that aren't a big stretch. So I would say that's a good place to start if you're open to it. But the other thing that I'm a big proponent of is setting up a regular touch point with your loved one to just, get it all out there once a week, and say, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm frustrated with about you, about the disease, about whatever. And then again, it's on your schedule. It's protected time. And I think that makes a huge difference. Even if the first few times you do it, it feels silly. Having that protected time and designated time means that you're less likely to explode about something in the moment, because what, I'm going to talk to him about this once I've settled down, on Sunday afternoons, like we always do, or whatever it is.
Yeah, and not being a caregiver, but also being married to someone, I can say that we were talking about this weekend, just having once a week designated time to come together and talk about anything that's been frustrating you or that you're excited about, or anything, having that designated time is really, really powerful. So I encourage everyone to give that one a try. So thank you for letting me interrupt. I think you were on number 5, or headed into number 5.
Yes. Okay. It looks like I was on number 6. If I'm looking, I've got
6.
notes taped up above my camera. I'm cheating a little
Perfect.
bit. So medical, financial, and care decisions. Obviously, with a Parkinson's diagnosis, especially if you're on the younger side, your whole plan for what's ahead has changed. And really, the sooner you start thinking about those changes that you can make, the better. And don't try and do it all at once, because you'll just overwhelm yourself and you'll stop. But start thinking about what you need to know about how to change or start estate planning. If your spouse or whoever, if your loved one with Parkinson's is on the younger side, and you have to start thinking about whether they're going to need disability benefits, in 10 years, if they're still potentially going to be in the workforce, you want to start thinking about that now, and the things you can do to be prepared when that comes. I had a note to myself to talk about this later, but especially if disability is potentially on the table for your loved one with Parkinson's, get a baseline assessment done by physical therapy, speech therapy, and a neuropsychiatrist ASAP, because that you can point back to 5, 10, 15 years later and say, this is where I was, and this is where I am today, and this is why I can't keep doing what I was doing.
Can I ask a question? Because that's something I never did that as I never did an official disability evaluation. But what you're saying is, as a physical therapist, as a speech therapist, as healthcare professional, if we see you that, hopefully day after you're diagnosed with Parkinson's, we just write up our evaluation. You have it as a medical record that you can keep track of, and then you can just submit that as part of the disability.
Right. Yeah. It's nothing formal. It's really just getting in and seeing that physical therapist, that speech therapist, that neuropsych, who's going to be your go-to person. And for those of you who are new to Parkinson's, and you're the caregiver, if your loved one hasn't figured it out already, those therapists, you should start thinking of them in the same way you think about the dentist. Start thinking about going and getting your checkup, tuning your routine, and then even if you think you're doing fine, getting them in again in 6 months or a year. And that can really
for saying that.
Yes, start now. If your loved one with Parkinson's has not been to see a therapist in the last year, set an appointment.
Yes, that's even more encouragement for, we talk a lot at Invigorate about things that you need to do almost immediately after your diagnosis. And I always, obviously a biased source, but there's a reason why getting to see your physical therapist immediately is beneficial, because we know that intervention as early as close to diagnosis can have ripple effects for years to come. But there's another reason to do it, because it helps you track where you have been. And, a lot of times you can make a lot of improvements with physical therapy. And so it doesn't have to be because you're expecting to be applying for disability, but it does help you keep track and help you explain your journey should you ever get to that point. So I love that you plugged physical therapy and speech therapy without me even having to. And we'll make sure that we can link to how to find a physical therapist. Actually, we've got some resources, I think, on your website we'll share here in a little bit. So
yes.
Okay, I love that. So financial planning, I think, was number 6.
Yes. And then number 7 is getting in touch with your community resources. Now the great place to start that I want to make sure I plug a couple times today is our helpline. So we have a Parkinson's specific helpline that's staffed by Parkinson's disease specialists who can answer just about any question you have. Many of them are nurses, some of them are social workers. But they're people who spend all day, every day in Parkinson's, and they've got this fabulous online system that can look into what's available in your area. They can help get you connected with a support group if you're interested. They can help you find expert care in your area, whether it's a movement disorders neurologist or looking for, physical or speech or occupational therapists who have a Parkinson's specialist or a specialty. So the helpline is a great place to start. It's 1-800 for PD info. And you can find more information about that on our website, parkinson.org. So that's a great place to start. You should also look and see if there's a Parkinson's Foundation Center of Excellence near you. We've got, 45 around the world, most of which are in North America. And they are the top of the top place to get Parkinson's care. And if there's one within driving distance to you, we really recommend trying to get there. And they're always very well educated on the resources that are available because they are so intimately connected with the Parkinson's Foundation. And we also have chapters around the country, not everywhere, but where we do, they put on really great educational events. They are connected with those support groups. They're a fabulous resource if you've got one in your area. Now, if you don't have either of those, there still is probably a Parkinson's support group, and there may even be one that's caregiver specific. But if not, I recommend getting connected with the different aging groups. So look for your area agency on aging. A lot of times there's a county aging office, and they'll have more information as well about different types of assistance that are available. Some counties have financial assistance available if you ever need it. And there's just a whole host of different things that vary from location to location.
Beautiful. And can you say the telephone again? We've got some people asking for it.
Yes, it's 1-800 for PD info, INFO. And oh gosh, I didn't put the actual numbers in my notes. 1-800 for 7. I don't want to get it wrong.
Yeah.
It's up on the website. Sorry, I should have put that in.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Also, all of these resources that she's mentioning, we'll have the links to, including the handouts that she's talking about, the phone numbers, the website pages, all included in our caregiver kit. So from all of our interviews over the entire caregiver month. So if you missed any of that stuff, it's okay. You can go to invigoratept.com/caregivers and download that, and you'll have all of that information. But if you do call the helpline, I've had so many of my clients call the helpline and ask questions, because it can be frustrating when you just have that one burning question and you don't want to search, Google because it's scary and you can't get a hold of your physician. And that hotline can actually be really, really helpful to kind of direct you to where you need to go. I love that hotline. So thank you so much for sharing that. I love that. Okay. So did we make it through the 7 things that you'll need as a caregiver? Okay. Those are amazing tips. And I wanted to, oh, good. And someone is looking out for you. In the comments, if you're watching this live on Facebook, in the comments, someone at the Parkinson's Foundation shared the phone number with the actual numbers. So check it out in the comments. Actually, here you go. I will copy it one time and we'll put it up on the screen for everyone. We did have someone ask kind of, or more of a comment. We're talking about all of these things and it's kind of almost like ideal world, right? In an ideal world where everything is perfect, here are the 7 things that you maybe need to do as a caregiver. There are some people out there who are wondering, what maybe insights you have for people who are already sleep deprived or kind of feeling overwhelmed and they feel like there's so much here. Maybe what can you give to those people as maybe the very first small thing to do to help give them some momentum?
Honestly, I would say go to a caregiver support group. When you are surrounded by other people who are living the same struggles that you are, who are feeling that same amount of overwhelmed, and people who are at different places in the caregiving journey as well, people who are, a little less in the weeds, and folks who have been living it a little longer than you have. There's so much wisdom to be gained. And there's such value in just being among people who understand your struggle. I am not a Parkinson's caregiver. I will not ever understand it unless I have a loved one diagnosed with Parkinson's. As much as time as I spend thinking about it and reading about it and talking to people who are living it, I have not lived it. And when you get yourself in a room with people who are living it or who have lived it, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. It really does. And I think there's a lot of stigma behind caregiver groups or behind support groups in general. But having that tribe, that's what we try and create here online. And as wonderful as it is to gather all of you online, it's so much more powerful to look a human being face to face in the eye and say, I'm really struggling. And to have them say, I know I was there too, and it'll be okay.
And it won't be okay, but we'll be here.
Yeah, I've got you. No matter what, we're here for you. So if I think there's a lot of stigma behind support groups. So if you're watching and you appreciate support groups, caregiver support groups or whatnot, just give this video a thumbs up, mainly to just let other people know that there are people who go to support groups. Because even knowing that that's not uncommon can maybe encourage others to seek out that support. So
yeah, and if you're not ready for an in-person group, there are lots and lots of caregiving support groups on Facebook. We have a caregiver forum on our website. It's parkinson.org/forum, and then you have to scroll down a little bit to get to the caregiver forum. But there are lots of ways to have those interactions, even if you're not ready to, put your shoes on and get out the door and walk into sit in a circle and talk about your feelings.
Definitely. I love this interview so much. It's so helpful. So can you tell us a little bit about, I had this interaction. I shared a Facebook post about getting physical therapy on the Invigorate page a few days ago. And I had someone respond who is someone who's younger with young onset Parkinson's. And he expressed this frustration of not feeling like he could do everything that he needed to do for himself while also working and raising kids who are not yet adults, and feeling like there's so much stuff that he should be doing that he can't kind of stretch himself into. So can you give a little love to people who have young onset Parkinson's or are maybe married to someone with young onset, to kind of give them an idea of how to explore resources or to prepare as a caregiver or as a couple?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a special love for the young with Parkinson's population. I spent a couple years in Columbus, Ohio, with the Ohio chapter, helping to start and grow a young with Parkinson's group. And so it's very near and dear to my heart. And it's such a challenging thing, and it's so very different from people who are, retired and don't have kids in the home and don't have, 40, 50 years of planning ahead of them that is now thrown out the window. So the first thing I want to say is just that, this is not an easy hand that you've been dealt, whether it's yourself or your loved one who has young onset Parkinson's, but that you're not alone in this. There are so many other people dealing with it. And so just remember that it's okay to be scared and overwhelmed. Those feelings are totally valid, but to take one thing at a time. You're never going to accomplish everything you need to do in every single day, whether it's dealing with your Parkinson's or anything else in life for that matter. So really think about setting small goals for yourself. So if you're feeling like there are so many things I'm supposed to do, I need to understand this disease, I need to get in to see a specialist, I need to get in and do physical therapy and speech therapy and all of this, and I'm a full-time working parent and there just aren't enough hours in the day, well, stop trying to squeeze them all into one day. Don't try and make every appointment. Think about one. Pick one and do it. And then bask in the glory of having done it before you dive into the next thing. You've got to figure out how to celebrate those teeny tiny victories, because Parkinson's is long and it wears on you. And you're never going to have it exactly perfectly balanced.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I'm watching our comments. I actually have goosebumps. Ben, who tunes in for almost every Facebook Live broadcast, is shouting your praises right now. Hallelujah. And well said. And absolutely, I agree. So Ben, thank you for those. I know that he's not the only one who is facing that challenge. So thank you for that. I love that. Do your one thing, celebrate it like it's the best thing that's ever happened, and release the rest. I love that so much. So
yeah. The other thing I do want to put in there, and this is not just young onset, this is everyone. If you find yourself feeling that overwhelm and that dread constantly, don't forget that this is a disease that has depression as a symptom and anxiety as a symptom. And if it's not going away, then it's time to talk to your doctor about it, because there are pharmaceutical treatments, there are therapy treatments. There's a whole lot you can do to help manage those things that are so common in this disease. And it's easy to look at Parkinson's and think about the motor symptoms and forget that it's the non-motor symptoms like depression and anxiety that have the most significant effect on people with Parkinson's.
Yes. And I was just reading a research study about cognitive behavioral therapy for Parkinson's, and how they talk about oftentimes as someone diagnosed with Parkinson's, or even a caregiver, you assume that depression and anxiety, it is a symptom, it's a non-motor symptom of Parkinson's, but then we make this assumption that it's permanent and It won't go away. But there's actually, outside of even medication, which can definitely help and should be used to help kind of get you out of that funk if you need it. But there's a lot of reprogramming that can be done by just talking with a therapist and having them work you through identifying those fears and pull you out of that anxiety and depression. It doesn't have to be permanent just because you have a diagnosis of Parkinson's. So.
Right. And the research has shown that with Parkinson's, depression is best managed with both pharmacological treatments and with in-person therapy. That's what our Parkinson's Outcome Project at the Centers of Excellence around the world has found. That's what works. So use the tools that exist.
I love
cognitive behavioral therapy is huge. We have one of our expert briefing online webinars. We had I can't remember who did it, but it was last year, I believe, and it's available archived, talking about cognitive behavioral therapy for Parkinson's depression.
Okay, we'll make sure to include that link. Someone I know that's watching, whether Parkinson's Foundation or on our team, will figure out what that link is, and we'll make sure that that's shared as well. I love this. So Parkinson's Foundation, you guys just combined, I'm probably going to butcher who you guys just combined, but you guys just combined two foundations to make one. And you have so many resources. You mentioned the Parkinson Centers for Excellence and all of your resources. So let's just take a moment to highlight what the Parkinson's Foundation can offer, maybe starting with the allied health, the healthcare kind of training that you have for healthcare practitioners and how to get access that. And then we can work into maybe some other online resources that you guys have and talk about the summit.
Yes. Okay. And I apologize in advance because I'll probably bounce around. I tend to get very excited about all the things that we do. And first you mentioned that we are a merged organization. So the Parkinson's Foundation exists as the merger of the National Parkinson Foundation and the Parkinson's Disease Foundation. We merged over a year ago now. And it has been really, really great to combine all of these programs and really have a larger impact because of it. And our mission is to make life better for people with Parkinson's and their loved ones. And we do that by focusing on improving care today and also working towards a cure for Parkinson's. So a little bit about clinical opportunities we have for folks who work with people with Parkinson's. The headliner is our Allied Team Training for Parkinson's. It's a training program for teams who treat Parkinson's. And it really emphasizes the multidisciplinary model, which is the cream of the crop, top of the top. If you want to get the best Parkinson's care, you want to walk into a Parkinson's clinic where you can see your movement disorder specialist, and then walk down the hall and see your physical therapist, and then stop in and see your nurse before you go see what resources the social worker has for you. That's really ideal. And that's what we are empowering people around the country to do through Allied Team Training for Parkinson's. In addition to that, we've got really fabulous programs available in person for nurses and for physical therapists. We have a scholar program for each of those where we are training professors of nursing and professors of physical therapy to better teach Parkinson's to the up and coming next generation of clinicians, because there's so much opportunity to teach more. And like I always tell people, the Parkinson's community is amazing. Once people get in and start working in Parkinson's, they don't leave. I didn't know anything about Parkinson's when I took my first job in the Parkinson's world, and now I can't imagine doing anything else. The people in the Parkinson's community with Parkinson's and their caregivers are the most lovely people on the planet. I really believe that.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
So we've got these fabulous train-the-trainer programs. We also have online programs available with continuing education for nurses, for occupational and speech therapists. I can't remember if I think we still need to redo the physical therapy online training course. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I mentioned earlier the expert briefing webinars. Those are great because they have continuing education available for clinicians, but they also are, they're done at a level that's still also great for people in the Parkinson's community.
Awesome.
So definitely a resource for both. And the topics are chosen by people in the Parkinson's community. We do a survey every year on what you want to be covered, and then it's covered in the next year. So we just had one on palliative care and advanced Parkinson's. I know we've got one coming up on vision changes in Parkinson's. We do 6 every year. They're approximately every other month. And you can learn more about that at parkinson.org/EB for expert briefings.
Awesome.
So that's a good segue into what we have available for people with Parkinson's and their loved ones. Obviously, the website is a great resource for everyone. We try and make parkinson.org the place for information around Parkinson's. And on the website, we've got a blog. We've got information about the disease and managing it. We have those forums that I mentioned earlier. There's a caregiver forum, but there's also Ask the Doctor and Ask the Pharmacist. Lots of different ways to interact with different healthcare clinicians. The website has all the information you could use. And on there, you'll also find information about our in-print resources. So we've got along with the Caring and Coping book that I so conveniently have here sitting on my lap. We have a whole number of books available on Parkinson's when you are ready to dive in a little deeper. We've got all of the non-motor stuff. We try and cover that. So we've got a book on mood. We've got a book on cognitive changes and a book on sleep changes, which is one of the, in my opinion, least talked about, most significant things, because over 90% of people with Parkinson's have sleep trouble. So those spouses out there who are watching, make sure that you're telling the neurologist if your loved one is punching you in their sleep, because that is absolutely connected with the Parkinson's. We've got one on psychosis, but we've also got a book on medications and on speech and swallowing. We really try and cover it all. So whatever issue you're having with Parkinson's today, and of course it'll change tomorrow, know that we've got a resource for it. If it's not covered in a book, it's probably covered in one of our fact sheets, which are a little easier to digest if you're concerned about getting overwhelmed with the books. Those can be found at parkinson.org/fact sheet if you want to search yourself, although the easiest way to get those is to call the helpline because they know them backwards and forwards. Those are the print resources. Oh, my very favorite thing is our Aware and Care kit. Caregivers, I hope that you all know that you have to be hyper vigilant if your loved one goes into the hospital. And if you don't already have one of these little black bags that's designed to keep your loved one safe in the hospital, then we need to get you one. So 3 out of 4 people with Parkinson's in the hospital don't get their medication on time. And more often than not, it leads to complications that could have been avoided. So it's a free kit that we provide that was designed to help educate the nursing staff, the pharmacist, even the doctors in the emergency room, to help make sure that your loved one isn't given a medication that's going to make them worse, and that they're getting their meds on time. So that's a really, really important piece that we give out. Let's see.
Can you direct us to where that might live on your website?
Yeah.
I'm sure that someone's going to put it in the comments. But
you can,
that's a great kit.
You can get that information if you go to awareincare.org. It takes you to our website, but that's the easiest link to get there. You can learn more there. We've got some really exciting stuff on the horizon with Aware and Care as well. Working on trying to get bigger changes made in hospitals. Okay, so Aware and Care. We have podcasts that are, again, kind of like the fact sheets, smaller, more digestible content with interviews with specialists and experts on everything that you could think of with Parkinson's. We've got really fabulous stuff happening in December where we are talking about about Parkinson's with children. So Elaine Book is the expert in young children and talking to them about Parkinson's. And we've got an interview with her there. She's also one of our speakers in person at the event in Phoenix. So we've got an interview with her. Oh, and I can't remember who the second one is. But those are going to be great. And all of the experts we interview on the podcast are fabulous. And it's like a 10-minute thing you can, pull up on your phone or on your computer and learn a little bit and learn more about where you can learn more on our website as well.
Awesome. I hope you guys were paying attention. Again, there's a lot of things going. If you're watching this live, there's a lot going on in the comments. A lot of these links are in our comments. If you're watching this on replay or even on YouTube later, it's not going to be in the comments. It'll be in the description below this video. We'll put links to everything that you need. And again, if you would need to download anything, go to their website, download anything that she mentioned. Also, we're going to put everything that she mentioned into a PDF and mail that out to our newsletter at the end of November. So every single thing that you say and mention will go out into that kit. All the links, the Aware and Care, because you guys make great resources, and it's really important that people have access to them all across their span of their Parkinson's journey. So tell us finally about the Caregiver Summit. What is it? When's it happening this year? How can people get involved?
So I am so excited that we are getting so close to the second ever Parkinson's Foundation Caregiver Summit. And this year we're doing something especially exciting because we are broadcasting in English and in Spanish. So if any of you out there are bilingual or have loved ones who are bilingual or speak Spanish exclusively, this is an event we've made available for you as well. So the event itself is taking place in Phoenix, Arizona, but we also have 16 satellite locations around the country where we are hosting events that will have a mix of streaming content and in-person content. So we're all going to be a part of this across those 17 locations. Plus, it'll be available live online in both English and Spanish with video of the presenters and the slides up on your screen so you can join in. And it's on December 1st. Now, if that date doesn't work for you, the good news is we will have all that content archived and available after the fact, both online, and we're planning to have DVDs made and available if you've got loved ones in the Parkinson's community who are not so tech savvy. So it's a really fabulous event. We're focusing it on collaborative care, which was a term coined by one of our committee members, really focusing on finding ways to care for yourself while caring for your loved one. And just like everything else, it's going to look different from person to person. There's no one way to be a caregiver, and that's we carry that through in the message for the event on December 1st. But we've got really, really fabulous expert presenters. We've got Sheila Silver presenting on intimacy and Parkinson's, which is one of those taboo topics that is so, so important. We've got Angela Roberts talking about communication in Parkinson's, and she is probably the expert in the field on adjustments that can be made to communication patterns with Parkinson's, especially when you take into account the speech problems that can arise as part of the disease. And then we've got a fabulous caregiver panel, a really great group of caregivers talking about how collaborative caring has worked in their lives and answering your questions. So it's going to be a really great day. And like I said, I'll be covering how to build your support team. And it's a celebration of all that caregivers do for their loved one with Parkinson's. And we really want to equip you with the tools to do so at your best.
That's amazing.
So you can learn more at parkinson.org/summit, or if you want to get information in Spanish, it's parkinson.org/cumbre.
Cumbre. Beautiful. Mm-hmm. You are getting rave reviews right now. I have to put some up on the screen. I don't know actually if Annie you can see, but Ben says Annie's the best you have interviewed. James says, thank you for all you do to help us with Parkinson's. You are getting so much love. If you love Annie, just give it a big heart.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
I'm so glad that I'm here and that I get to come back next week.
Yes, you will be. Perfect segue. Yeah. So today we covered essentially the 7 things that you need as a Parkinson's caregiver. And this is to lay the groundwork early after a Parkinson's diagnosis. A lot of people who are watching that I can see in the comments here are people diagnosed with Parkinson's, potentially learning for themselves or maybe going to share with their loved ones, spouses, or partners. And next week, I love that you guys love Annie so much because we are bringing her back on. We're going to bring her on to talk about caring for someone who has advanced Parkinson's disease. So your day-to-day looks quite different than someone with earlier symptoms of Parkinson's. And so if you know someone who would benefit from that information, make sure to invite them to our next Facebook broadcast. If you know someone who would benefit from knowing what we've covered today, please like and share this video with anyone that you think would benefit. Annie shared so many resources today that even just having 1 or 2 of them in your hands can really change the way that you approach your loved one as a caregiver, or even, as someone diagnosed with Parkinson's. So please share. The more you share, the more that we can build the community up together. And finally, if you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube, wherever you're at, make sure that you like and follow and subscribe to Invigorate. Also, go over to the Parkinson's Foundation, like, subscribe, follow what they have going on.
I forgot to mention, we have
go
a
ahead.
lot of really fabulous stuff happening on social media, especially this month, which is National Family Caregiver Month. We have a whole campaign going on right now, focusing on what care is. So we're asking caregivers of people with Parkinson's to talk about what care is to them. So it might be care is unconditional, or care is challenging, care is everyday, whatever it is, whatever that one thing is that you wish people knew was caregiving. We want you to be talking about it this month and helping raise awareness of what it is to be a caregiver of someone with Parkinson's.
Amazing. Well, make sure that you go and check out everything that they have going on, because I know that it will benefit you guys so much. And then finally, if you want, again, everything that Annie covers in this broadcast, in the next broadcast, everything that we cover in our caregiving series, you can download our free PDF, the Caregiver Kit, at invigoratept.com/caregivers with an S. And you'll have that stuff for a lifetime. So Annie, one more question. Are you going to the World Parkinson Congress in Kyoto?
So the answer right now is maybe.
Okay.
Hopefully.
We'll try and convince you.
I would love to go. I will let you guys know.
Okay. We'll keep track of Annie's social schedule here on the Invigorate Facebook page. Okay, thank you everyone for tuning in. We just love and adore the community that we serve. I know Annie feels the exact same way. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until next time, keep moving. And we're both sending you lots and lots of big hugs. All right. Bye, guys.
Thanks.